Maxim lived in a small town where the streets were narrow and the houses old, with peeling paint and the smell of rain and earth lingering in the air. He loved this town because here he could hide from the noise of the world yet still feel part of something real, something alive. He was tall and lean, with thick dark hair and eyes that reflected all the fatigue and sorrow he had carried. His soul felt like an abandoned garden, once full of life, now overgrown with weeds of pain and resentment. His wife, Elena, had left a year ago. The reason was simple yet deeply painful, a lie she had hidden for far too long. Not a grand betrayal, but a small, crushing falsehood that shattered trust. For Maxim, it felt like a blow to the very heart, realizing that the person he trusted most in the world could conceal the truth. Maxim stopped playing the guitar. Every string in the house, every musical memory reminded him of happiness that had vanished. Music no longer brought joy, it became a wound, a constant reminder of betrayal. Months passed. He went to work, returned home, drank tea, and stared at the walls. Life was monotonous, as if he existed in the shadow of his own life. His friends tried to support him, but Maxim only brushed them off. "No need, I'll handle this myself." Then, unexpectedly, came a strange phone call. It was his childhood friend, Igor, who had moved to another city and rarely kept in touch. "Maxim, you have to hear this." Igor's voice trembled. "Do you remember those nights when we played guitar until dawn?" These words unexpectedly struck a chord in his soul. Something inside him tightened and, at the same time, came alive. He hung up the phone and sat in silence. Memories flooded his mind. Their laughter, late-night walks, the sound of the guitar, and Elena's laughter, the return of music. The next morning, Maxim opened an old drawer where his music sheets, guitar, and vinyl records lay. He picked up the guitar, gently strummed the strings, and listened. The sound was rough and hesitant, but it stirred something deep in his heart. He sat by the window and began to play. The room was quiet, bathed in the soft morning sunlight filtering through dusty curtains. The strings sounded slowly and cautiously, as if he were speaking to himself. Music filled his house, his mind, his heart. Memories returned. Joyful moments, evening walks, jokes, laughter. Music didn't erase the pain but gave it a shape he could finally endure. Every day, Maxim devoted at least an hour to playing. He recorded melodies on an old tape recorder, sometimes adding lyrics, sometimes just playing. With each passing day, his hands grew more confident, and his heart lighter. Encounter with the past. Months went by. Maxim began walking in the park where he and Elena used to stroll. This park was full of memories. Old benches carved with "Forever us," trees under which they held hands, and a pond where they fed the ducks. One day, he saw Elena. She stood by the pond, gazing at the water, her eyes reflecting fatigue, pain, and hope all at once. "Hi," she said softly, almost whispering. Maxim approached but didn't speak immediately. He observed her. Past and present mingled in that moment. Elena began, "I know I hurt you. I lied, but I want to explain." Maxim listened. He felt a mixture of emotions. Pain, anger, yet also a strange warmth, a glimmer of hope. "People make mistakes," he finally said, "but that doesn't mean they can't love." Elena nodded, and a pause lingered between them, a pause containing their entire history, all the pain and love they had shared. The music of forgiveness. After that meeting, they began seeing each other more often. But now it wasn't their old relationship, it was something new, two people who had endured pain and learned to understand one another. One evening, Maxim invited Elena to his home. He picked up the guitar and played the melody he had once written for her. She listened, tears streaming down her face, tears of relief and joy. "It sounds like how our world should have sounded," she whispered. Maxim smiled. He realized that music was not just a memory, but a bridge to the future. In the following weeks, they created new melodies together. Sometimes they simply sat and listened to the wind playing with the leaves, other times they sang together, laughing and joking. Music became their conversation, a language in which they could express everything too difficult to say aloud, challenges and new discoveries. Life did not become perfect. They faced difficulties, jealousy, fear of losing each other, misunderstandings. But now they had learned to speak openly about their feelings instead of hiding them. Maxim opened a small home studio where he recorded music and invited friends to join. Elena began writing lyrics, inspired by their shared experiences. Together, they created songs that told their story, a story of pain, forgiveness, and love. Each song was like a small chapter of their life. One day, they even held a small concert for their neighbors. People listened to their music, crying and smiling, and Maxim realized that music was not only healing his soul but also bringing joy to others. The dawn of a new day. Years passed. Maxim and Elena grew closer than ever. They did not forget the past but learned to accept it as part of their story. Their home was again full of laughter, music, and light. One morning, they sat on the veranda, sipping tea, listening to birds singing. The sun softly bathed their faces. "Let her play," Maxim said, "the music we make is our story." Elena smiled. "Yes, let her play." And the music sounded again. But now it was the sound of love, forgiveness, and hope.